Told my boyfriend I'd rather suffer alone than visit his cruel, judgmental mother, and now they're calling me a bad doctor. I'm a 23-year-old guy, and I hate my boyfriend's family with a passion. Honestly, I can't stand them. They're the most condescending, judgmental assholes I've ever had the displeasure of meeting. Things started to unravel the very first time I met them. They immediately started picking apart my appearance, telling me I could improve myself if I lost some weight, cut my hair, and stopped eating like a pig. For context, I'm 188 centimeters tall, 80 kilograms, hit the gym constantly, and would consider myself more than fit. But none of that matters to them. They even trash talk my job. Apparently, I'm not good enough to be a doctor and they claim I work too much. My boyfriend's mother always leads these attacks, with the rest of the family nodding along in agreement. It's gotten so bad that I dread every single birthday, Christmas, or celebration that forces me to see them again. Meanwhile, my boyfriend tells them to stop, but it never works. They just brush him off and say that I'm too sensitive and need to relax. The last time I saw them, they even sat there with a straight face, right in front of me, and told my boyfriend that he should dump me and find a man who's better for him. I was sitting right next to him when they said it. The audacity is incredible. Recently, his mom got into an accident and landed in the hospital where I work. My boyfriend begged me to help his mother and make sure she got the best possible care. I told my coworkers about the situation and, thankfully, they made it clear I wouldn't be assigned to her case and wouldn't even need to go near her. Still, my boyfriend and his family kept begging, asking me to at least visit her during my break and make sure she was okay. I flat out refused. I told them I'd rather be alone, suffering in my apartment, than visit that woman, whether with my boyfriend or alone. I truly can't stand her. Now, both my boyfriend and his family are blowing up my phone, insisting I'm a bad doctor for not wanting to help a patient. But she isn't my patient, that's the entire point. And just in case you're wondering, here in Sweden it's 5 years of med school, then you become an intern, kind of like what's called a resident in the US. Once that's done, you can specialize. I work in a surgical hospital, and I started my studies just before I turned 17. So, no, their cruel words aren't about incompetence, it's all about control and belittling me, and I'm over it. Update 1. Here's my update for anyone interested, and let me just start by saying how much I appreciate all the kind words and support I've gotten lately. I needed that encouragement more than I realized. First things first, his mom was completely fine, there was never any real danger. Meanwhile, my colleagues came to me telling me all the awful things she was saying behind my back, how I was just a wannabe doctor and how her son could do so much better than me. I was furious. After all the time she and her family had begged me to come visit, she was still finding ways to trash me. So, I finally reached my breaking point and stormed into her room, demanding to know what her problem was with me. She just looked at me and said, in her own words, that I'm too masculine to be with her son, and that he needs to find someone who's not like that. I couldn't even believe what I was hearing. I went straight to my boyfriend and told him what happened. At first he was angry, at least he acted like it, but then he kinda agreed with her. He told me maybe I could try being less masked and it wouldn't hurt me. That's when I realized just how deeply this ran. I told him plainly, if he wanted me to change who I fundamentally am, there was no point in being together anymore. He quickly backtracked, saying that's not what he wanted, that he loved me. I laid it all out for him, just like so many of you said I should, and made it clear, if he wants to be with me, he needs to go low contact with her, and as for myself, I was ready to go no contact entirely. He said I was being unfair, that I was being unreasonable. But my mind was made up, and eventually, we broke up. You know what? I'm not even heartbroken. I still have my career, my amazing friends, and a family who genuinely loves me. He's texted me, saying he misses me, but I've ignored him. In the end, I think I'm honestly happier for it. It's definitely for the better. I just want to say again how much it helped to hear from others that I'm not overreacting, and that I'm not a coward for walking away when things got too hard. I really did love him, but the guy has massive mommy issues, and dealing with his mom made me realize I cannot be with someone who won't put me first. I work my ass off, I don't have the energy left at the end of the day to feel lousy because of the person who's supposed to care about me. Update 2. This guy's family treated me like absolute garbage from day one. I was never good enough for any of them, just a wannabe doctor, as his mother liked to say, and they actually pitied my patience, convinced I wasn't suited for the job. It didn't stop there. They constantly pressured me to be less masculine, because in their twisted little fantasy, my ex needed to be the man in the relationship. The nerve. Eventually, I couldn't stand it anymore. I told him, flat out, if he wanted me in his life, he needed to set some serious boundaries with her. Low contact for him, no contact for me. That was my line in the sand. He refused. He wasn't willing to stand up for me, so we broke up. A few weeks passed, and out of nowhere, he shows up at the hospital where I work. He knew my schedule while we were together, so he figured out exactly when my shift ended. After a brutal 15-hour shift that had me dreaming about nothing but collapsing into bed, I walked out to find him waiting for me. He started with "I miss you," then launched into this ridiculous story about how his mother had suddenly realized maybe having a doctor in the family was a good thing after all. Apparently now I was the prize. He even called himself an idiot for letting me go, said he was done with her drama, said we should try again. All I felt in that moment was exhaustion. God, I was so tired, not just 10 hours on my feet tired, but bone deep tired of all his family's crap, tired of always being the outsider, tired of the way he never defended me. Sure, maybe I missed what we had before it all went south, but I couldn't ignore the resentment that had built up in me since the breakup. I had hate in my heart for him, for everything he let happen. I don't even know what I wanted to happen when I got home. I was just overwhelmed, knowing I could never go back to how it was, not after everything they put me through. I couldn't sleep, this has just been eating at me, rolling around in my head. I needed to get it out. Either way, I should mention, I'm a man. Update 3. His mother is an absolute nightmare to be around. Every time I was near her, she would talk shit about me right in front of my face, making fun of my appearance and telling me to stop eating like a pig because no one wants a pig in the family. She would openly suggest to my ex that he could do better than some wannabe doctor like me. No matter what, I refused to let someone speak to me like that, which was why I insisted that he go low contact while I went no contact with her entirely. So yesterday, I finally sat down and talked to him. I asked directly if he was actually willing to go no contact with his mother for me. Every time, he dodged the question, changing the subject over and over again. I confronted him about why he let me hear his mother's insults, those things she said about my being the doctor in the family, and he couldn't answer that either. I told him to leave, we'd continue the conversation the next day, because I couldn't stand it anymore. Today, after work, I met him again. I got off at 1, met him at 3, and told him straight up, if he couldn't answer my questions honestly, then it wasn't even worth trying anymore. Eventually, he told me what sounded like half the truth. He admitted he regretted everything, but then said his mother was right, which, honestly, should have been the end right there. According to him, I was acting like the man in the relationship, and that undermined him. He said he couldn't go fully no contact with her because that's his mother, then called me childish for breaking up over some comments she made. He promised me it wouldn't happen again, that he'd stand up and not let it happen, but I was past believing any of it. When I pressed him on why he only came back to me after his mother decided that having a doctor in the family would be useful, even though she still didn't think I was a good one, he just said it was true, and that it was good to have a doctor in the family. At that point, I'd reached my limit. I'm exhausted, I work long hours, and coming home to that kind of headache just isn't worth it. I told him that I am a man, and he is too. That's not how relationships work between two men. You don't let your mom dictate things and belittle your partner, no matter what. I'm done tolerating being talked down to and belittled over their internalized homophobia. I told him that any man or woman he might want to date in the future can put up with that kind of problem, but it will not be me. He begged me, said it would make him happy if we tried again, and that his mother could somehow change. But I need to be with someone who loves me for who I am and won't let their mother's hate make me feel like a failure or a bad person. I'm not dating her. I told him not to bother contacting me again, that I'm done with him, now and forever. Update 4. My ex-boyfriend and I broke up a few months ago, all thanks to his overbearing mother. Since then, I haven't heard a peep from him, thank goodness, honestly. But out of nowhere, there she was, showing up at my front door like some sort of villain in a bad sitcom. She demanded that I take her precious son back, telling me he's been blaming her for the breakup and now barely speaks to her anymore. Her entitlement was truly something to behold. She actually thought I'd take him back just so he'd start talking to her again. The whole thing was just so ridiculous that I couldn't control myself. I burst out laughing right in her face. I seriously laughed for a solid 4 minutes, unable to stop myself, and I could see it was making her even more furious every second my laughter continued. Finally, still chuckling, I closed the door in her face and got ready to head out for work, thinking that was the end of it. But, oh no, she wasn't done yet. This woman actually had the nerve to follow me all the way to work, cornering me again with the same demands. Again, I just started laughing. It was too absurd not to. Eventually, I told her to fuck off, making it clear that she made her bed and now she could rot in it. The look on her face was priceless, pure shock, especially since I'd always held my tongue before just to keep the peace for my ex's sake. I made it clear, if she kept harassing me, I'd go straight to the police. That threat finally seemed to cut through, and she backed off. Good riddance, she can deal with the consequences of her own meddling, and I can finally move on. Update 5. So the devil revealed herself again, this time dragging her son along for the show. Honestly, I still can't stop laughing thinking about it. Today, my ex and his mother showed up at my door. My ex began by telling me that his mom had informed him I was willing to take him back, that we could finally have a good life together, again. The second the words left his mouth, I absolutely lost it. I burst out laughing right in their faces. I told them both straight up that they were delusional if they thought I would ever even consider having any kind of relationship with either of them. I turned to my ex and let him know, right there, that his mother was lying, and he damn well knew why I'd never, in a million years, take him back. He spun around and started yelling at his mom, and I just stood there with the biggest smirk on my face. That's when his mother lost it. She started shouting homophobic crap at me, throwing out lines like, "This would never have happened if you just stopped acting like a man." That only made me laugh harder. I nearly doubled over. Things got wild for a second. My ex-mother-in-law actually tried to attack me, but luckily for her, her son managed to hold her back before things got physical. They left soon after, fuming and probably still yelling at each other all the way home. Later on, I got a call from a mutual friend. Apparently, my ex wanted me to know that he'd make sure his mom wouldn't bother me anymore. Not that it matters, I've got him blocked everywhere anyway. Update 6. So I thought the circus was over. Apparently not. I got pulled into a meeting with my department head and HR because, surprise, his mother filed a formal complaint against me, both to the hospital and to Ivo, claiming I refused to treat her out of spite and was a danger to patients. She even attached a photo of me in scrubs like it proved anything. I didn't know whether to laugh or roll my eyes into the next dimension. The whole thing took 10 minutes to dismantle. Staffing logs showed I wasn't on her team, wasn't on her ward, and wasn't even on the same floor when she was admitted. The nurses had already documented her talking shit about me while she was there, actual notes about disruptive behavior and hostile comments, with timestamps. My boss told me, very calmly, that not treating someone you're personally entangled with is the exact correct decision. Conflict of interest, professional boundaries, common sense. They were more annoyed at being spammed with her all-caps emails than anything else. Then security knocked on the meeting room door and handed over footage from the day she followed me to work. There she was on camera, tailing me across the car park, then hovering by the staff entrance like a wet gremlin. Add that to the incident report from when she tried to corner me in the lobby, and suddenly it was the easiest decision in the world. She's banned from entering the hospital unless it's an emergency, and if she shows up again to start drama, security calls the police. I filed a police report the same afternoon and asked for a restraining order. Temporary one granted, hearing scheduled. I ran into my ex 2 days later outside my building. He waited by the bikes and tried the whole soft voice, "Can we talk?" thing. He said he didn't know about the complaint, swore he told her to leave me alone, said he's not speaking to her. I told him that's between him and his new therapist, turned around, and went upstairs. I've spent enough sleep on that family. My door hasn't seen him since. The hearing was today. She showed up in a beige trench coat and a pearl necklace like she was testifying at a soap opera. The judge asked her to explain herself, and she launched straight into a monologue about how I refuse to heal her because I'm obsessed with power. The judge cut her off twice. My turn took about a minute. I gave dates, showed screenshots of her messages, the security clips, and the complaint timeline. The hospital's letter confirming I wasn't assigned to her case went on top. When the judge asked if there was any reason I should be forced to tolerate continued contact, she tried to pivot into homophobic garbage about me acting like a man. The judge put his pen down and said, "We're done here. Restraining order granted for a year. She can't contact me, come near my home, my job, or my gym. If she violates it, it's immediate consequences." Outside the courtroom she tried to stare me down like that would melt the papers in my hand. I smiled and walked past. It felt like unclipping a weight I'd been dragging around since the first dinner I ever suffered with her. Back at work, I got pulled into another quick chat. Management reported her Ivo complaint as malicious and closed. They also added her to a flagged visitor list across the hospital group. It's not dramatic, it's just a quiet, official no. No more entrance. No more hallway ambushes. No more phone calls pretending to be a concerned citizen trying to fish for my shifts. A mutual friend texted later that my ex moved out of her apartment last week after a blow-up. Apparently she said he wasted his last chance at a doctor in the family and he slammed the door so hard a picture fell off the wall. I don't know if that's true. I don't care. I put my phone on silent and slept for 10 hours straight for the first time in months. I went for a run this morning, bought fresh bread on the way home, watered my plants, and thought about nothing except how good it felt to have an empty notification screen. I'm going to work, doing my job, going home, and my life is quiet. That's all I ever wanted. Update 7. I thought I finally had peace. Then Thursday happened. I was at the gym after an early shift, headphones in, halfway through deadlifts, when I felt someone staring. I turned and there she was, in a scarf and sunglasses like a discount spy, standing 5 meters from my rack. Restraining order be damned, she was actually smiling, this tight, triumphant smile, like she just checkmated me. I didn't say a word. I racked the bar, walked straight to reception, told them she was violating a court order, and pointed. They hit the panic number they keep for stalkers and violent exes. Meanwhile, she tried to drift closer, lifting her phone like she wanted to film me. When I didn't react, she started talking loudly about forgiveness and closure, as if we were in the middle of some staged reunion scene. No one was buying it. 2 police officers showed up in under 10 minutes. She pivoted immediately into this breathless speech about how she happened to be there. Then, when they asked for her ID, she put a hand to her chest and said she felt faint. A paramedic unit rolled in fast. This is Sweden, the system works, and I stepped aside and let the professionals do what they do. Her vitals were boring. She requested to be taken to my hospital. The medic looked at the tablet, saw the flag on her file, and told her they couldn't transport her there unless it was life and death. She tried to argue. The medic repeated himself. She sat up perfectly straight, said she suddenly felt much better, and demanded everyone apologize to her for harassment. The cop just asked for her bag. Inside, a printed apology letter with my name spelled wrong, a bakery box with stale cannelle boulard, and a folded sheet with my shift times from last month, highlighted. She started yelling about concerned friends and public information. The officer asked her to stand, told her she was being detained for violating the restraining order, and read out the conditions she'd signed. She started crying, full body, mascara running, the whole thing. I finished my water bottle and texted my boss I might be late to my afternoon meeting because I was giving a police statement. He replied, "Take your time." Statement done. They showed me stills from the gym cameras, her waiting by the door for 15 minutes before I even swiped in. A friend of hers was on a bench nearby with a phone pointed at the racks, pretending to scroll. Security caught that too. The officers told me they'd recommend the prosecutor push it. It's a clean violation with intent. You'd think that would be the end. Friday morning I opened my door to leave for work and almost stepped on a bouquet, red roses with a little card that said "Let's start over" and a phone number I didn't recognize. I didn't touch it. I took a photo with the timestamp, sent it to the case officer, and left it there on the doormat like a crime scene until I got home. By evening, the petals were falling off and someone's dog had peed on the bottom left one. Fitting. The same day, the hospital's legal team pinged me. A nurse from another ward filed an internal report because a middle-aged woman with pearls had tried to slip her a 500 note in exchange for a look at the on-call rota to send a thank you gift. The nurse shut it down, documented everything, and called her supervisor. HR pulled the cameras. Guess who? The ban got extended to the private clinics in our network. There's an email now that goes to the switchboard anytime her number calls. It's just a picture of a red stop sign and the text "Do not engage, refer to legal." Saturday, my ex dropped a letter in my mailbox. Actual envelope, handwriting I recognized. He wrote that he'd moved out for real, that he'd started therapy, that he was sorry, an actual apology, no buts, no bargaining. He said he was ashamed of what he allowed, that he knew I never did anything wrong, that he wouldn't contact me again unless I reached out. He included a new number and then crossed it out. I stood by my kitchen counter and read it twice. Then I slid it back into the envelope and put it in my drawer. That can live there and gather dust with my old student IDs and the spare keys I never returned to an apartment I don't even remember the code to anymore. Today was the prosecutor meeting. Short. They're charging her for breaching the restraining order. They're also looking at attempted unlawful access because of the rota stunt. The officer asked if I wanted to apply to extend the order to 2 years once this case is done. I said yes. He nodded like that was the only sane answer. After all that, I put on my shoes and walked to the bakery. Fresh sourdough. Coffee. The kid behind the counter asked me if I wanted the receipt, and I said no and meant it like a prayer. On my way home, I bumped into the new neighbor on my floor walking his tiny dog in a tiny sweater. The dog barked at my ankles like he wanted to fight. I laughed. We chatted about the broken dryer in the basement and the fact that the bike room smells weird no matter how many times they clean it. It was the most boring, perfect conversation I've had in months. I'm going to work. I'm touching patients who actually want my help. I'm ignoring bouquets and stale pastries and phone numbers that don't belong to me. The only person who gets to dictate my schedule is the charge nurse, and even she says please. That's enough. Update 8. Ting's Rattan smelled like old paper and coffee. She came in late, trench coat again, pearls again, like she'd been cryogenically thawed between hearings. The prosecutor didn't waste time. Gym footage. Stills from the roses on my doormat. The incident report from the lobby when she was hunting the on-call rota with a 500 note and a smile. The officer read the conditions of the contact order out loud, line by line. She stared at her hands like she'd never seen fingers before. Her lawyer tried a soft focus angle about misunderstandings and a mother trying to mend fences. She tried tears. She tried to say she felt faint again until the judge said we could pause for water or we could continue like adults. She picked water and stared at the table and the pearl at her throat wobbled because her hands were shaking. My part was 10 minutes. Dates. Times. The email from the hospital legal team, the flag, the ban, the photo of the roses with the timestamp and a small smear of dog pee in the corner because life is comedy if you stand back far enough. I kept my voice even. I didn't add adjectives. I didn't need to. Then they called my ex. He looked smaller somehow. He told the court he'd moved out, that he'd told her to stop months ago, that he'd filed his own police report when she followed me to the gym because he didn't want to be dragged into charges as a proxy. He said he was there to confirm the shift printout with my schedule had come from her kitchen drawer. He had a recording of her asking a friend to get a clip of him lifting. We'll show how aggressive he is. They played 10 seconds. Her voice, precise and cold. The judge asked him why he was giving it now. He said he'd been a coward and he wasn't going to be one anymore. She twisted around on the bench to glare at him and the bailiff took one step forward and she faced the front again like a deactivated Roomba. Verdict took 20 minutes in a side room. Guilty of violating the restraining order. Dagspotter and a suspended sentence. Skate stand to me, nothing dramatic, just the official acknowledgement that my piece is a thing you can damage and then repay with numbers. The order extended to 2 years without fuss. The judge looked over his glasses and said, "If you approach him again, you will go to jail." She nodded, finally silent. Maybe the pearl was choking her, maybe she realized rubber bands do eventually snap. In the corridor after, she lurched toward me like a boat slipping anchor. 2 steps and then the bailiff's hand was on her arm and he said her name once, Sharp. She froze. For a second, we were 4 people in an aquarium, suspended by a hum you could feel in your teeth. Then they steered her toward the exit and her heels made a fast, angry rhythm that didn't match her face. I went to work. I changed into scrubs. I washed my hands until the smell of court soap was gone. Halfway through the afternoon list my phone buzzed in my locker with a voicemail from a private investigator whose existence I'd previously filed under American TV. He said he'd been contacted by a woman who wanted him to observe my comings and goings and compile a log, plus any compromising material. His exact words. He said he doesn't take those kinds of jobs, not in Sweden, not anywhere, and he thought I should know. He emailed me the intake form she'd filled out. Same email address she used to spam my hospital, a fake name typed with the grace of a sledgehammer. I forwarded it to the case officer and got a 1-line reply, received, added. Did you change nothing? I hadn't. I biked home the same way I always do. I bought milk. Security rang me the next morning because a man from a courier company was downstairs with a giant basket and a laminated card that said apology hamper. The center field was blank. The receptionist told him to wait, called me, and then told him to take it back. He muttered about signatures and tip money until she pointed at the restraining order copy taped inside the glass. He took the basket and the elevator doors closed on his offended sigh. The receptionist slid a printed photo of the card under my door later like evidence in an envelope. I filed it with the roses. By lunch the hospital IT guy had traced a wave of anonymous emails about me to the same IP that sent the original complaint to Ivo. It was a cut-and-paste essay about unprofessional behavior and refusal to help the vulnerable, sent to 3 local newsrooms, our hospital press office, and my department's generic inbox. One newsroom called our PR lead to ask if there was a story. She told them the complaint had been investigated and dismissed and that the sender had a restraining order. They thanked her and hung up. If there's anything colder than a Scandinavian phone goodbye, I haven't found it yet. I met my neighbor in the stairwell that night, the one with the small dog in the sweater with ears. We ended up having impromptu corridor fika sitting on an upside-down moving box and the dog climbed onto my shoe and sighed like he was clocking out from a long day. We talked about nothing. We talked about the mailboxes that stick in winter and the mystery of the bike room smell and whether the new sushi place is actually good or just has good lighting. It was a conversation that had no plot and it felt like life was letting me rehearse being normal again. The prosecutor called today to say they're opening another file for attempted proxy contact through hired surveillance. Different box to tick. He asked if I wanted to add my gym and my parents' house to the protective order parameters. I said yes. One more brick in the wall. It doesn't make the sky smaller. On my way home I stopped at the bakery and the kid gave me an extra quenelle bowl because they're crooked and we can't sell crooked ones. It tasted like butter and sugar and cheap luck. I took the long way back, past the canal where the water looks like crumpled tin foil when the wind hits it right. My phone stayed in my pocket. The world kept doing its normal indifferent things. I let it.